Welcome to the cold sanctuary where the mirrors don't lie. Have you ever sat in a room with a woman and felt the air vanish, as if a localized vacuum was sucking the life out of the space? You weren't imagining the chill. Your intuition was screaming that you were in the presence of a biological predator. Today, we perform an autopsy on the narcissistic woman when she is truly alone. Imagine a grand estate that looks flawless from the curb, but the foundation is being eaten by a silent, aggressive rot. That is the narcissistic woman entering her private chambers. She has spent her day treating every human soul like a disposable battery, and now the chemicals are leaking. We are answering the big haunting question. Who is she when the mask melts in the darkness? You have seen the perfect mother, the divine partner, or the empowered professional. But when the front door locks, the theater lights go out. There is no applause to sustain her, no mirror to reflect her fake godhood. She is a frequency pirate who has run out of signals to hack. In this silence, she undergoes a profound psychological and biological decay that is lethal. Why does she pick a fight right before you leave, or turn into a total stranger the moment the guests exit? It is because she is terrified of the void. Her most disgusting habits are survival tactics for a soul that has completely lost its ability to generate its own light. She is a somatic junkie staring at an empty syringe, and her isolation is the ultimate clinical withdrawal. Today, we are stripping away the heavy cinematic curtains to show you the internal poverty of the monster who tried to make you feel small. Most people think these predators are invincible masters of seductions, but they are emotional scavengers. They are cursed to hunt for a high that leaves them emaciated. She was gasping for air, and your empathy was her only oxygen tank. We are exposing the 7 specific things she does when no one is watching, behaviors so revealing they shatter the glass house of her manipulation. This is the secret knowledge the predator never wanted you to find. She wants you to believe she is a goddess of peace, but in the dark, she is a vandal of the divine. She is spray painting shame on her own internal temple. You have spent years wondering if you were the problem, thinking if you were only better or more attentive, she would finally be happy. But the truth is, she is biologically incapable of peace. Her restlessness is a confession of her fraudulence. She didn't love you, she siphoned you. Now that she is alone, she is staring at the wreckage of the energy she looted from your spirit. This is a clinical breakdown of an unraveling ego. You will never look at her, me time, the same way again. The power is shifting back to the sun today because the darkness can no longer hide its nature. She is a ghost in a designer suit, pacing the hallways of a hollow life. She is running from the mirror because the mirror shows a hollow woman with no core and no conscience. Tonight, we pull back the velvet curtains on the narcissist's internal famine. We expose the hidden fears that make a few hours of silence feel like an eternity in hell for her. You are not a victim of your love, you are a survivor of a spiritual heist. The narcissist is terrified of the dark because the dark is where the echoes of everyone she destroyed come back to haunt her. This first chapter is your sanctuary of clarity. You have been blaming your inadequacy for the coldness in the house, but the coldness is her own internal rot. She lost the bet the moment you decided to seek the truth. As we move into the breakdown, remember, her agony is the most honest thing she will ever own. The lights are up, and the predator is finally, undeniably visible. To understand the narcissistic woman's descent when alone, you must look at the mechanical void of her internal map. She is a collection of stolen personas with no original signal. She is a biohazard of unprocessed trauma. When the theater of the public eye closes its doors, her internal structure begins to buckle. Without your ongoing validation, she starts to dissolve. When she is alone, the first thing she does is mirror rehearsal. She stands before the glass, practicing the tilts of her head, the crinkle of her eyes, and the tone of her empathy. It is a clinical laboratory experiment. She is building a skin-tight mask for her next victim. She isn't reflecting on her soul. She is recalibrating the weapon of her false, fabricated self. The second habit is digital surveillance. She spends hours in the dark, stalking ex-partners and current targets online. This is not about love, it is about the assessment of the payload. She is checking if you are still suffering, or if her replacement is providing enough high-grade supply. She is a frequency pirate, scanning the horizon for any signal she can still hijack. Third is the somatic slump. When there is no audience to impress, her hygiene and surroundings often collapse into neglect. The perfect woman becomes a creature of lethargy, sitting in filth because the vessel doesn't matter if no one is worshipping it. She only cares about the paint on the walls, not the rot in the pipes. This is the true face of her internal decay. Fourth is the plotting of the next sabotage. In the silence, she isn't seeking peace. She is drafting the next script for your devaluation. She is looking for the "pa" in your armor, the exact phrase that will shatter your confidence tomorrow. She is an emotional arsonist, planning where to pour the gasoline while you are sleeping, thinking she is dreaming of your future. Fifth is the engagement with flying monkeys. She uses her phone like an oxygen tank, sending calculated texts to her enablers to smear your name. She is building a fortress of lies to protect her fragile ego from the truth. She is a master of the digital whisper, ensuring that by the time you wake up, the world has already been poisoned against your very existence. Sixth is her internal monologue of pure vitriol. When she is alone, the kind voice vanishes. She speaks to herself, and about you, with a venom that would burn skin. She justifies her betrayals by convincing herself that everyone is as hollow and predatory as she is. She is a sewer system that has backed up into her own mind, drowning in the bile of her own malignant envy. Seventh is the hysterical dissociation. When the silence becomes too loud, she may spiral into a manic state of pacing or strange, repetitive movements. She is trying to jumpstart a dead engine with nothing but toxic shame. She literally loses the ability to feel her own presence without your reaction. She is a signal without a station, a ghost trying to scream in a vacuum. Metaphorically, the narcissistic woman is a high-end hologram that requires a constant stream of data from a projector. You are that data. When the connection is severed, the image starts to glitch. By the time the somatic weakness takes hold, the projected image of the nurturing female is flickering. You see the gray, petty child hiding in the pixels. It is terrifying. The psychological breakdown reveals an abuser as a closed system running out of entropy. She is cooling down to absolute zero. Her biological rot is the end of the motion. As we move into the turning point, you will see what happens when the empath finally switches off the lights for good. You are going to see the power shift from the hungry ghost to the radiant, sovereign sun. The dramatic turning point arrives in the absolute silence of your indifference. It happens the moment you stop trying to explain why you are hurt. You stop defending your worth. You stop reacting to her late-night tantrums or her cold withdrawals. This is the psychological plot twist. She has been baiting you for years, but today, the hook finds only deep and cold water. Watch her panic when the mirror refuses to reflect her fake image. She is an addict who has just been cut off by her dealer. She will try a hysterical Hoover, crying fake tears and promising heaven and earth just to see if the old strings still pull. But you are not moving. This stillness is traumatic to the predator. She senses her own irrelevance. She realizes you are gone. This is the moment of internal sovereign alignment where you realize the abuse was a filter she placed over your eyes. You take the filter off and see the abuser for what she actually is, a small, frightened, empty shell screaming for attention. The rot is visible now. You don't feel anger anymore, you feel clinical observation. You are the scientist, she is the specimen. When rage fails, she pivots to strategic victimhood. She will invent illnesses, financial crises, or family dramas to guilt-trip you into resuming the connection. She is frantically trying to load the syringe of her shame and inject it into your compassion. But you see the calculation. You recognize the performance. By naming the demon, you strip its power and walk past. The silence of the empath becomes the acid that accelerates her rot. Without your empathy to heal the wounds she self-inflicts, the abuser's internal injuries fester. She starts fighting with her friends, her mother, or her children. She is spiraling into chaos because she cannot exist without a calm center to disturb. You were that anchor, and you have finally cut the rope. She attempts a malignant discard to save the last shred of her ego. She announces to the world that you are the problem, that you are the narcissist. This is a psychological confession of her internal failure. She is projecting her own death onto you. But you are relieved. You accept the discard like a lethal promotion. You watch her walk out and feel the density lift. Show the shift in the energetic signature of your life. The moment she is gone, the space sanctifies. You strip the bed, you burn the sage, and you open the windows. You realize that the 7 disgusting habits were a contagion she brought into your temple. Now that the carrier is gone, your vitality returns. You breathe into your center and feel the radiance of your spirit. This is a psychological shift. You forgive the vessel for absorbing the rot. You realize your body was just trying to survive a toxic spill. You nurture the flesh with self-respect. You realize the relationship was a dark initiation that forced you to find your internal sword. You thank the trauma for breaking the mirror and revealing the sovereign. You have finally graduated. This is the moment of total detachment. You look at the past and you don't feel pain, you feel physics. You see the mechanism of the energy transfer. She is a name you barely remember, a minor malfunction in the great machine of your evolution. The turning point is absolute. You are inhabiting your life with an intensity that is terrifying to the weak. You are finally home. As we move into the collapse, remember, the abuser depends on your reaction to stay 3D. By withdrawing your focus, you have deleted her existence in your universe. She is going to panic. She is going to burn her own world down to get your attention. But you are no longer the firefighter. You are watching the fire from the high ground, safe in your own solar sovereignty. The collapse of the narcissistic woman is a spectacle of absolute void. When the empath stops absorbing the rot, her false self shatters from the internal pressure of its own nothingness. She experiences narcissistic mortification, the psychic death she's been running from since childhood. You will see her acting out with manic recklessness. Her mask is melting away like acid. Her social consequences are swift and public. As the recovered empath moves through the world with quiet dignity and icy indifference, her smear campaign evaporates into the stench of desperation. The truth has its own gravity. People start seeing the pattern of the withered victims she leaves behind. You are the witness who survived the clinical and psychological autopsy. The internal panic of the abuser becomes a manic screaming for new supply that no longer exists in your space. She looks for you in every face she exploits, but no one can reflect the God image you once gave her. She is starving for the high-grade empathy your energy used to provide, but the pharmacy is closed. She killed the golden goose for sport, and now she is hungry. Watch the harsh truth of her new life. She looks old. She looks gray. She looks brittle. The life force she stole from you has expired, and she has no internal reactor to generate more. She is cursed to repeat the same loop with lesser and lesser souls until she draws her last breath. She is trapped in a body that is closing down, haunted by the memory of your radiant sun. The tone is brutally cold and analytical. She is a parasite that underestimated the resilience of the empath. By moving on spiritually, you have executed the predator. She is the walking dead, carrying the corpse of her own ego. She hates you for surviving her spiritual warfare. Every breath of peace you take is a poison to her delusion. She is collapsing into the void. Internal panic leads to pathological stalking of your happiness. She analyzes your every post, searching for a sign of pain, a sign of return. But she finds nothing but strength. This strength is traumatic to her. It debunks her God complex. It proves she is just a glitch in your evolution. She is screaming from the shadows, trying to cast a spell you no longer hear. The social discard concludes with the final isolation. The flying monkeys have woken up. The family has distanced themselves. She is left alone with the ghost of the one she couldn't destroy. This isolation is the mirror she feared her whole life. In the silence, she is forced to hear the echoes of her own lies. She is stroking the air where you used to be, all alone. Brutally truthful analysis. She failed because she miscalculated the resilience of the spirit. She thought she could starve the empath, but she only forced the empath to hibernate and evolve. Once you wake up and retain your energy, you are invisible to her manipulation. The narcissist is a shadow that cannot exist in the presence of your internal and solar truth. Intensify the collapse. You watch her disintegration with a sense of sacred justice. You don't feel vengeance, you feel order. You see that the world is actually safe because you are the one who defines your reality. Her rage is a distant noise that no longer reaches your frequency. You are living at a depth she cannot reach. The monster is finally, clinically, dead. As we enter the final truth, look at the ruin of the abuser and realize, you are the winner. The rot was just the shell of your evolution. You have found the key. You have opened the door. You have walked into the world and the world recognized you. The final truth is cinematic, empowering, and saturated with radiance. The collapse is complete. The sunrise is now internal. We have reached the final truth. The disgusting things she did when alone were never your fault. They were the symptoms of a soul that has already died. You were simply the mirror reflecting her internal abyss. The night doesn't belong to the predator anymore. It belongs to the soul that has integrated its shadow and found its own light. You don't need to fear the quiet. Emotional closure comes from the absolute knowledge that she never existed as the person you loved. You were in love with the reflection of your own empathy. Today, you have taken the reflection back. You are closing the case file on the predator. You have realized that her hate was a badge of honor. A being of darkness will always hate the sun. You are the sun. Shine on. Healing is the cinematic slow burn of presence. It is the feeling of the ground under your feet, the sound of your own voice telling the truth, and the sight of a future that is unwritten and safe. You are reprogramming your nervous system to expect beauty and respect. You are learning that empathy is a superpower, not a sentence. You are finding your soul in the quiet. Empowerment is the quiet strength of the empath who refused to stay defined by the predator. You have seen the bottom of the abyss and you brought back the fire. You are unshakable. Her screams from the shadows are just background noise in the symphony of your life. You have changed the frequency. You are tuned into the voice of the universe and the holy earth. You are part of a global awakening of sovereign empaths who are refusing to be supply. We are collective strength. We are spiritually invincible. The narcissist's obsession with your energy was the last stand of a dying parasite. The age of the predator is ending. The age of the authentic is beginning. Your voice is a siren of truth for others who are still shaking. Imagine the final scene. You are standing on a mountain peak at dawn. The wind is blowing through your spirit, cleansing the last traces of her shadows. Below you, the dark valley of the narcissistic trap is dissolving in the light of the new day. Above you, the sky is exploding with colors you can finally see Kambali. You are whole. You are complete. You are home. Cinematic closing imagery. She is now a distant ghost, stalking the ruins of a life she burnt. She is screaming at the wind, begging the dust to become the host again. But the dust stays dust. You are flesh and blood, light and fire, moving at the speed of joy. You have found your tribe. You have found your peace. The spiritual necrosis was just a dark, heavy cocoon. The final truth deliverance. She tried to kill the empath because she was terrified of what would happen if the soul went sovereign. She wanted to keep you as a battery, but the battery exploded into a sun. You are magnificent. You are unstoppable. You have won the game by walking off the field. You have ascended beyond the manipulation. The ghost is clinically dead. Reclaim your space. Reclaim your voice. Reclaim your right to walk the earth with confidence and dignity. The sexual killer, the psychological parasite, and the emotional arsonist have no power here in the presence of your light. Use it to warm your own life. Use it to create beauty. You are a generator of universal light, and the grid is restored. You are the master. The narcissist's private habits are the evidence of her ultimate isolation, but your public healing is the evidence of your divine power. Walk into your future with the fire of the chosen, because the predator has finally run out of time and you have just begun to live. The act is over, the mask is shattered, and you are finally, irrevocably free.